Hello and welcome back to the channel. I wanted to show you a turn 0 interaction in Azamina ROLAD, Azamina Chaos, Azamina Light and Darkness Ritual, whatever you want to call it, that I see a lot of people not utilising. And I don't mean that they're not utilising it properly, I just mean they're not utilising it full stop. So because the Azamina Chaos deck is gaining in popularity, there's a lot of people who want to play it. There's a lot of people who are, I think struggling to understand some of the niche interactions, and now we can use those to just squeeze that extra little bit of advantage out of our plays. So in this particular instance, this is the kind of thing you'd throw out in a either game 3 scenario, in which it's your only turn 0 play, and you know your opponent is on a pseudo FTK deck, and you have to do something, right? You've got one roll of the dice. I've got one turn 0 play I can make here. So, I'm going to throw something at them and hope it does something. You can also do this if you're fairly confident your opponent isn't on Fallen and the Virtuous. So let me show you what I mean. What it needs is a Griffo and a Diabell Star the Black Witch. Now they are both 3-offs in the deck, so this isn't some kind of unicorn type situation. This will come up, it'll come up quite regularly. Like I say, they're both 3-offs. So what can we do in a turn 0 scenario in which we have Griffo and Diabell Star? We activate Griffo. We're going to use that to set the Mind Shuffle. And we will activate the Mind Shuffle. Activating its effect now to play around Ghost Ogre. We search the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Everything's standard for now. Then what people do here is they send Skull Archfiend of Chaos to the graveyard. That's incorrect. You send Diabell Star to the graveyard. Because what happens now is we get a trigger for Diabell Star. It was sent to the graveyard during our opponent's turn. So we can send a card to the graveyard and special summon the Black Witch back. So we activate the trigger effect of Diabell Star, sending Skull Archfiend of Chaos, and then we special summon the Witch. We get 2 triggers now. We go Chainlink 1, Skull Archfiend of Chaos, because we want to chain block. We go Chainlink 2, Diabell Star the Black Witch. And then we have options in terms of what we want to set. So we got Wanted, we got Deception. They're the obvious options. There are other things you can do, so cards like Sinful Spoils of Doom. I'm not suggesting you play this necessarily, I just want to show you that it exists, because we've got plenty of level 7 or higher spellcasters, and this becomes effectively a quick effect Raigeki if it survives our opponent's turn. There's also cards like Sinful Spoils of Subversion, which has got less of a requirement in terms of activation. It's just a particularly tricksy form of removal, right? Because it targets, so that's relevant to the mirror, and it places it in the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, which is a particularly awkward type of disruption to deal with sometimes. The card that's the most interesting though is a card called Sinful Spoils of Betrayal Silvera. So what this does is send 1 Diabell Star monster from your hand or face up field to the graveyard, then target a card on the field, face up, negate its effects. So it can negate spells, it can negate traps, it can negate everything. That alone doesn't make it particularly interesting. What makes it more interesting is that it has a graveyard effect. And if you've ever played this card in White Forest, you will know people do not respect this card when it's in your graveyard at all. So what it does in the graveyard is when your opponent activates a card or effect, so it's if they activate a card or effect, that's important, in response to your Diabell Star monster effect, or, again this is important, Sinful Spoils spell/trap card or effect activation. So what that means is that you can activate Deception, and then when you activate Deception's effect, because they're different, right, this is still live, banish this card from your graveyard, negate that opponent's effect. So let's set this, and then of course we'll have the resolution of our Chainlink 1, the Skull Archfiend of Chaos, adding to hand a Blackluster Soldier. So what we have now is massive follow-up for our own turn, and we have a turn 0 banish. So our opponent tries to play the game, normal summon in Immedius, we respond with Mind Shuffle. Note that we have the required material now, the level 7 or higher, bouncing it back to hand. So we special summon the Blackluster Soldier, Medius resolves. We're going to add this to hand because they know it can be banished if they don't. We get the trigger of the Blackluster Soldier, targeted banish, banishing the Medius. And so what that's given us is a turn 0 play. Obviously, there's other cards in hand. This could be an Ash, this could be a Parelia, etc. But what this has given us is it's a turn 0 play in a scenario where we might well have been staring down at a guaranteed game loss if we didn't interact with our opponent. A lot of the decks in the format at the minute will put up FTK boards if you don't interact with them whatsoever. And what I see a lot of people doing is sending the Skull Archfiend to the graveyard instead of the Diabell Star, which, yes, does generate follow-up, but then you're just sat watching them do a PowerPoint presentation on all the many different ways in which a player can be restricted from playing the game known as Yugioh, and there's nothing you can do, right? You just sat watching. If you sequence things like this instead, you give yourself a fighting chance, at least. That banish could be the difference between staring down an 8 interaction board and a 4 interaction board. I'm not saying this necessarily stops them from playing all together. Don't get me wrong, it in theory could. But it might make their end board something you can play into. So let's take a look what happens though if, from here, our opponent wipes the rest of our field. So we're losing everything. As we pass turn, we've got nothing. So they end. We open an Ojama. We've got 3 other Ojamas in hand. But we've already got, funnily, like genuinely, the other cards in our hand could actually be Ojamas, and it wouldn't matter because we've already got everything we need to full combo to the moon. And we set up a turn 0 banish, of course. So if you look at our graveyard, there's 2 different effects we can activate. We've got Light and Darkness Ritual, which can add back the BLS. We have the Griffo in graveyard as well, so we can add back the BLS. We can special summon, getting a banish, using the Griffo as the entire cost. So we can start our turn by getting a really sticky boss monster onto the field and getting a targeted banish. Not only that, we've got the Skull Archfiend Chaos. So if they've got any particularly irritating cards in their graveyard, maybe they've got a Rindbrum in their graveyard, etc., we can be shuffling those back. And of course, the Diabell Star has been bounced back to hand, which alone is full combo and gets you absolutely everything. If you don't know how Diabell Star is full combo that gets you absolutely everything, drop a comment, because I haven't made the video on it yet just because I felt like it was already out there, but if you're watching this video and you don't understand how Diabell Star alone gets you literally everything in Azamina Chaos, Azamina ROLAD, do let me know, I'll make a video on it. But watch what happens here. We can special summon the Diabell Star, activate the trigger effect. Our opponent tries to interact with our Diabell Star. And they're forgetting, of course, we had this in the graveyard. So what I'm trying to show you here is that even if you go through this turn 0 sequence, but then lose everything afterwards. So you've gone through the turn 0 sequence, and then your opponent clears the whole lot of it before passing turn to you. Even in that scenario, you've still got everything you need to not only play the game, but to beat hand traps and to beat interaction. Because people do not play around this card. And if you notice, it's not, let me just go around the long way so it stays there. It's not when your opponent activates a monster effect, it's when your opponent activates a card or effect. So any attempt to interact with the Diabell Star after you've summoned it, now remember this will come back to your hand with the Mind Shuffle, so you're going to have this in your hand. Mind Shuffle will bounce this back to your hand for cost. So realistically, one way or the other, that this will be in your hand as you start your turn. And so any attempt to interact with the Diabell Star, whether it's spell, trap, monster, doesn't matter, banish the Silvera, and it ensures the Diabell Star goes through. So now we've got the Deception. We've still got, like we talked about, Light of Darkness Ritual. We've still got Skull Archfiend of Chaos. We had 4 other cards in hand. Obviously, we pitched an Ojama to special summon the Diabell Star. What you can do as well is, if they don't destroy Silvera, So as you go into your turn, you've got a face down Silvera, you've got nothing else, you've got the Diabell Star in hand. Special summon Diabell Star, sending the Silvera to the graveyard as the cost, quote unquote. It's not actually a cost. And then it's the same thing. If they try to interact with the Diabell Star, you can just stop it with the Silvera. No one ever, almost ever, plays around this card. And so I just wanted to show you this because it's a little bit of a difference in terms of how we sequence things, but it's just a much, much better way of setting ourselves up for our own turn, as well as actually interacting with our opponents during their turn. Because that one banish, if used at the right time, can be the difference between staring down an 8 interaction board or a 4 interaction board. And a 4 interaction board is beatable with this deck. This deck is genuinely quite strong at breaking boards. 8 interaction board, well, that might be too much, mightn't it? Anyway, if you liked it, consider dropping me a like, a comment, etc. All of the good stuff. It does genuinely really help me out. If you're unsure how Diabell Star alone is full Azamina and Light and Darkness combo, drop me a comment, let me know. Like I said, I haven't made a video about it yet because I just kind of assumed people already know. But if you're watching this and you don't know, let me know so I can let you know. And another one is we have Griffo. Griffo alone, during your own turn, is full Azamina combo as well as full Light and Darkness combo. So both the engines bridge into each other with a single card. If you don't know how that works, again, drop me a comment, I'll make a video on it. Anyway, I want to keep this video a bit shorter, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, hope you liked it, see you in the next one.